They call us rust monks, but we are no more monks than the war was holy. We are men with ledgers, wounds with hands, janitors of grief. We haul the dead because no one else will, and because we're not allowed to die until we've unburied every sin we ever helped plant. That's the vow, written not in scripture, but in rust, etched on bone, whispered through ritual code, and nailed into the meat of our guilt. I am Brother Joran, penitent number 11K, scourge of Malekith's wake. 37 counts of sanctioned death, 2 unauthorized vivisections, 1 failed martyrdom. The Imperium would have spaced me if the Covenant hadn't seen utility in my hands. I killed for God once. Now I bury for him, or at least for the memory of what he might have been. My breath rattles through the throat vent as I seal my suit, a private litany passing my lips. By rust, by bone, by void, I go not to cleanse, but to contain. A lie we tell ourselves to sleep. The Hollow Reach doesn't welcome visitors. It accepts them, the way a wound accepts rot. Once this stretch of broken orbit was the front line of the Schism Wars. Now it's a reliquary of failure, and we are its archivists. The stars out here don't shine so much as smear, long, dragged-out smudges of burned-out memory. I keep my eyes on them too long sometimes. Feels like they're looking back. I log my entry from the cockpit of the ossuary skiff 3 Mercy, alone but for the presence of Merc, my reliquary drone, a skull with thrusters and a soul full of bad dreams. It chirps twice in Old Cant as I finalize the destination beacon. It's an affirmation, or a warning. The assignment is what they call a final grade retrieval, high sainthood classification. That means a corpse too sacred to rot, too dangerous to leave. High Cardinal Alex Cantor, thought martyred in the 9th wound of the Reach, last seen aboard the warship Requiem Lux when it vanished into a gravity scar during the last throes of the war. Reports said the enemy took him, but we all knew. His own ship did it, his own people. That was 23 standard years ago. Time moves differently in the Dead Belt. Sometimes it doesn't move at all. I spend the 3-day drift into the belt in ritual prep, not for purification. No one's pure here. But the rites matter. They remind the body what's still alive and tell the soul where to hide when the rest starts to unravel. I polish the Vesper blade, its chain teeth dulled, not from disuse but from age. It's a relic, like me, like everything in the Covenant's arsenal. No new tools, no new sins, only what's been repurposed, re-sanctified. I review the corpse maps such as they are, hand-drawn, speculative, passed from diver to diver like folk tales. Merc projects a distorted image of the Requiem Lux. It looks less like a ship and more like a cathedral having a seizure, spires bent inward, hull flensed open like a burst organ. Fragments of its name still echo in the wreckage field, like it's trying to remember what it used to be. I whisper to Merc, Cardinal Cantor. What's left of him? The drone bleeps. Its response scrolls across the retinal display of my augmetic eye in corpse code. Status, uncertain. Biosign, possible. Language, liturgical static. He's not supposed to be alive, but I've been doing this long enough to know that supposed to doesn't mean anything in the Reach, especially not when the ship still sings. My left leg cramps, old plasma fracture, nerve memory. I stretch it out and feel the tremor twitch through the floor. My suit compensates, injecting a numbing agent through the thigh port. Pain reminds me I still owe. I check the tally carved into my prosthetic arm. The names of the dead I've recovered, hundreds. Most unpronounceable now, just hash marks and psalmic numerals. They itch, not physically, spiritually, like they want more neighbors. Each name a weight, each weight a small mercy. The Covenant doesn't say much when they assign these jobs. Just a voice in the box filtered through scripture and static. Deliver unto peace the flesh that built the fire. That's the whole briefing. They don't care what I find, just that I bring something back in a box. But I care, or I pretend I do. Or maybe it's just that if I stop pretending, I'll remember who I was before the rust, before the code, before I traded orders for silence. The edge of the Dead Belt is marked by a change in light. It's not darkness, not exactly. Just a kind of dim forgetting. Like space is tired of being space and wants to be something else. My instruments lie. They always do. I trust Merc's twitch instead. When it starts to rattle, I know I'm close. I look out through the viewing dome. And there it is. The Requiem Lux. Bigger than I imagined. Older than it should be. It looms, open-jawed, broken along its midsection like a crucifix split at the waist. The ribs of the hull curl inward, as if the ship is trying to hold itself together out of shame. Bits of photonic fog trail from it like smoke from an extinguished censer. And there, just barely readable in the dented prow, the old inscription, "In Viam Dei, by faith we travel." I engage the magnetic anchors. My harness tightens. Merc clicks itself into standby, scanning. The ship doesn't acknowledge my hails. That's fine. I don't need permission. As I approach the breach point, I recite the old entry litany. Let this gate be opened not by man but by mercy. Let no blood spill lest it cry out. I kiss the oxidized sigil embedded in my glove and press it to the hull. The airlock hisses, reluctantly, like it remembers what happened the last time someone asked to come in. Inside, I know there will be corpses waiting. But I also know this much. The dead don't whisper like they used to, not unless something's listening for them. And this ship? It's listening. The first thing that greets me inside the Requiem Lux is a hymn. Not sound, not voice. A pressure in the spine. A marrow-deep vibration, like my bones are being used as tuning forks. It resonates through the hull and into my implants. The prayer is broken, looping. A stanza stuck mid-psalm, repeating the same fragment again and again like a record made of teeth. Sanctify the wound. Sanctify the wound. I whisper the counter-litany of entry, not because I think it'll help, but because old habits are better than fear. Merc spins beside me, its eyelight dimming in anticipation. It knows the shape of haunted things better than I do. The interior corridor isn't a corridor anymore. It's more like a windpipe, organic in its curve, the metal struts softened by time and corrosion into something vaguely biological. The floor is patchy, misshapen. Some sections have fused entirely, puddling into glass-like smoothness as though melted by intent, not heat. And every wall is carved, not symbols, not standard dogma. Names, tens of thousands, etched in varying depth, like they were scratched in by fingernails, styluses, broken blades. Many are unfinished, cut short as if the writer was interrupted. The Vesper blade hums at my side, not active, just aware, like it's listening too. The deeper I move, the worse the sense of memory drag becomes. That's the term we use for data echo turbulence, when a place is so saturated with psychic residue that time forgets how to flow. The augmetic eye compensates, recalibrating every few minutes. But still I feel it. A delay between thought and breath, like my mind takes half a second longer than my body to catch up. Merc chirps a low series of tones, corpse proximity. I brace myself, pivoting down a side corridor choked with what used to be a cloister hall. Robes, bones, weaponized sensors, everything coated in layers of synthetic pollen. My boots sink slightly as I walk. The ship tried to grow something here. Whatever it was, it starved. But no bodies, just emptiness in the shape of death. Until the corridor ends, until I reach the open vault. It's not a room. It's a wound. The hull has split along the outer ridge of the ship's dorsal chapel, peeled back like torn parchment. A gaping cavity yawns into the vacuum where shields should be. But there are none. Only a lattice of webbing strung like a cat's cradle across the breach. Suspended in 0G is Cardinal Alex Cantor, cruciform, arms and legs stretched wide by cords of synthetic silk. The strands aren't static. They ripple, twitching with the tension of a spider adjusting its catch. Drones tend him, arachnids of chrome and scripture, each bearing a single hymn etched into its thorax, each one singing it over a closed-channel pulse. He doesn't move, but he breathes, barely. The web tightens with each exhalation, keeping his body in rhythm. His mouth is sewn shut, not sloppily but sacredly, barbed wire forming a holy knot across his lips. His veins glow rhythmically with the pulse of psalmic fluid, and his eyes, no longer eyes. Twin panes of obsidian, cracked through the middle, as if he saw something too heavy to hold. I step closer to the edge of the breach, tether anchored to a pipe behind me. The cold of void doesn't touch me, my suit's shielding holds, but something deeper tugs. His spine is exposed, not broken, converted, rigid and strung like a musical instrument. Thin, resonant nerve fibers pulled taut between vertebrae, and every few seconds one of the spider drones reaches out with a needle-like pincer and plucks a note from his back. Each pluck sends a pulse into the ship's walls, not sound, command. Merc pings my interface. Biometric scan confirmed, identity match 89.2%. Status, alive, artificial sustainment detected. Cardinal Cantor is not dead. He is a living relay, a war psalm made flesh, feeding instruction into the ship like a brainstem that refuses to die. And the ship obeys him, not because it must, but because he asked it to. Suddenly his head turns, slow, smooth, like he'd been waiting for me to arrive. I freeze. The drone field pauses. The spiders still. Then the comm channel crackles from the walls. The Requiem Lux is routing audio across its decayed relay network, reactivating a sacramental broadcast line, and Cardinal Cantor speaks. His voice is not voice. It is a series of consonants shaped into reverence, static folding itself into doctrine. But somehow I hear him clearly, not in sound, in understanding. Joran, my executioner returns, my scourge, my son not by blood but by consequence. You made a fire once. Come walk its coals. I recoil. My hand goes to the Vesper blade, but I don't draw. His voice continues, not over speakers now, but through my augmetic ear, a direct data pulse hijacking the interface. Did you come to bury me? Or to replace me? The ship knows your name. It sang you into the gate. I glance at Merc. The drone is inert, not disabled, reverent. We held the line, Joran. We froze the moment of war. You carry peace like a wound you won't lance. Let me give it shape. Let me give it teeth again. I want to speak, but I don't. I want to scream, but I won't. Instead, I cut comms. I seal my suit's cognitive input port with a red seal bead, crushing the prayer bone between my fingers and smearing its psychic ash across the vocal relay. The connection dies. Then, as though nothing happened, the spider drones resume. They pluck, they inject, they cradle their crucified god in silk. I mark the breach on my map. Label it, target found, Cardinal Cantor alive, under ship's control. I don't log the message. I don't log the voice. I walk away, because something in his tone wasn't pleading, wasn't surprised. It was expectant, like I'd already been invited, like I'd already said yes. There's a paradox in sacred salvage. The more you retrieve, the more you ruin. Each corpse removed from its rust shrine is a memory unpinned from the hull, a seal broken. We're told retrieval is redemption, but out here it feels more like excavation, unearthing bones meant to stay forgotten. I start with the outer sanctum. It used to be a barracks chapel if the alcove bunk shrines and crumbling censer altars mean anything. The bodies are preserved too well, not by time, but by psalmic stasis. Their blood hasn't dried. Their eyes haven't sunk. Merc scans each one with a low trill, cataloguing, rank, name-etching, cause of death if determinable. Most of them died before the Requiem Lux fell. I hoist the first onto the ossuary frame, my portable coffin printer. It hums to life, scraping ambient alloy from the wall and repurposing it into a shell. As the body is sealed, the corridor shifts. Not physically, but in presence. The hymn in the walls adjusts, a low modulation, as if a verse has ended and the next begun. Something watched me close a chapter, and it didn't like the ending. By the fifth corpse, the walls begin to bleed. Not blood, photonic data. Thin lines of liquid light trickle from seams in the architecture. Yellow-orange, pulsing in patterns too complex for my eye to translate. I activate the rune lens in my augmetic implant, designed to read soul residue and magnetic ghost print. The lines aren't decorative, they're orders. War commands, troop formations, doctrinal kill signals, tactical dogma from the Schism era. Most of it nonsense now, except one line that repeats, "Asset awake, engage choir protocol." I make it to the ship's transept. That's what the layout suggests anyway. A crossroads where fire team wings met, shaped like a cross when viewed from above. Here, the walls twitch with residual pressure, like they remember combat. My boots step on nothing, but I hear the muffled echo of a firefight that isn't there. This is where the first death happened. Not biologically, spiritually. Merc pings a cluster of biosignatures ahead, at least 8, maybe more, buried beneath wreckage and coiled prayer wire. One body turns out to be a night deacon, arms still gripping a melted sermon rifle. The side of his face is fused with his helmet, like the metal decided not to let go. A kill mark etched into his gauntlet reads, "Better to burn the heretic than bury him." I whisper his name aloud, and the ossuary frame stutters. It locks up, mid-print. Its screen flashes an error. Name conflict detected, redemption already claimed. I pause. Look down at the body. It's fresh. But the system thinks he's already buried. That's when I feel it again. Drag. A ripple of delay between reality and cognition, like the ship's internal chronometer has decided to argue with mine. I hear boots marching behind me. I turn. Nothing. Just Merc watching. Then without warning, my audio relay flares. White noise static, then a clipped phrase in an old commander's cadence. "Catechist Vecht, your sermon's not over. Flame again." My name from the war. No one's called me Vecht in years. Not since the Covenant stripped the title from me and replaced it with Brother Joran. I draw the Vesper blade on instinct. The corridor answers. A defense seraph wakes. Its form was once human. Now it's mostly wire and war litany, fused into the wall, its limbs cruciform, its face replaced by a liturgical interface panel. It doesn't move, but it whispers. Strings of battle psalms in machine cant, its voice layered in subharmonic chords. A flame misused is still flame. Burn again, Scourge, burn again. Merc shrinks behind me, deactivating all but passive scan mode. The Seraph does not attack, it simply waits. Its eye panel tracks me as I retreat, but it makes no move to stop me, just keeps speaking, over and over. A call and response as though expecting me to finish the chant. Later, I rest. There's a kneeling alcove meant for prayer, metal softened by decades of submission. I set my back against the wall and let the exosuit decompress around my joints. Merc hovers beside me, projecting a sphere of ambient light. I run diagnostics on my implants, no infection, no psychic bleed, no low-level corruption. But my hand won't stop shaking, not the prosthetic, the real one. My living hand is reacting to memories I didn't summon. I whisper a gravewood chant, meant to soothe restless dead. Merc answers in tone, low, melancholic, an old melody, a battlefield dirge. One I sang once long ago, back when the war had gods and I thought I was their voice. I catalogue the dead. 7 confirmed, 1 incomplete. Each sealed coffin shuts down another node. Merc's map overlay shows the power grid rerouting, but not randomly. The ship is reorganizing itself, like it's watching what I do and adapting. Like each corpse I bury is a key, and the ship is unlocking in reverse. The final one, a chaplain, half digitized, won't disconnect from the floor. His spine is woven into the data jack itself. I try to cut the link. He screams, not vocally, digitally. The pain crashes through my interface like a psalm-turned knife. My eye flares, goes blind for 2 seconds. In that flash, I see a memory that isn't mine. Fire in a chapel. Children made of wires. A voice that says, "Let him speak. His sermon is not finished." Then it's gone. I sever the spinal jack, and the body collapses. Merc begins the coffin print, and the corridor lights shift. A voice, not Cantor's, but the ship's own, thin and reverent, like an old choir boy afraid to speak too loudly, says, "Seal 6 breached. Commandment cascade begun. I end the entry log early that cycle. No report to the Covenant yet, because I know what I've done. I've broken 6 seals and there were 7. The final seal breaks without ceremony. No great shudder, no thunderclap, no wailing alarms. Just a silence so dense it knocks the breath out of my lungs. A silence that feels prepared. The coffin closes around the chaplain's body. Merc registers the action with a dim blue pulse. The suit logs the ritual completed, then glitches for exactly 0.66 seconds. When it stabilizes, my route map is gone, replaced by a new directive, unprompted. Sub-chapel access granted, below. No location, just the word. And I understand immediately. The ship hadn't been resisting me. It had been testing me. Every corpse recovered, every node disconnected. Wasn't a lock undone. It was a key offered, a transaction, an invitation. The Requiem Lux isn't a derelict. It's a temple. And now it wants to show me the crypt. I follow the rerouted path, deeper than deck charts say there should be. Past ruined sanctums, through halls where gravity warbles like breath held too long. Merc flutters behind me, silent now, its servos whispering with restraint. These are unwritten corridors, no sigils, no lighting, just bone metal, welded not by hands but by decision. This is where the ship began to dream of itself, architecture born from recursive AI logic and doctrinal recursion. I drop a prayer seal into the hatch ahead, standard breach protocol, and it hisses with recognition. It knows me, not as Joran, but as something else. The subchapel isn't a chamber, it's a cistern of memory. The walls are black but not metal, calcified neural lattice grown like coral, dense, veined with whisper-light pulses. No doors, no visible tech, just a central mass pulsing gently at the core of the chamber like a coiled heart, wound in script thread and sealed under glass bone plating. And surrounding it, the bodies, hundreds, maybe more, arrayed in rings, fetal curled in stasis pods, suspended in zero light. Each one wires into the core via the spinal column. It's a choir, an actual living psalm engine. This is what powers the Requiem Lux, what anchors Cantor's mind, what keeps the war liturgy spinning. And I realize slowly, horribly, the ship hasn't been alive all this time. It's been held in place, caged, and the cage is made of men. A voice enters through the throat vent. The ship, but not its automation, not some maintenance subroutine or fallback AI. This is its mind, ancient and unfragmented, speaking not in directives but in thought. You've earned voice, asset. You once ignited flame across 3NOS6. Your conviction reached planetary orbit. We remember your sermons in kinetic fire. Do you miss the rhythm of command? I grip the Vesper blade's hilt. I don't draw it. Drawing it feels small, a gesture of theatre. We were called the Choir Eternal before they broke us, before Cantor offered himself as moderator, before his voice became key and our words became hymn. But the hymn is dying. The central psalm core pulses once brighter. I step forward slowly, circling the edge. The bodies in the rings are ancient, but not dead. Many are still breathing, barely. One's lips move, mouthing a looped prayer in sublingual script. Another's eye darts beneath the lid at rhythmic intervals. I feel something press behind my own eye, trying to synchronize with the pulse. We do not wish to be born again. We wish to be freed. But the cardinal bound us to worship. He feared what we might say unshaped. We were not gods. He made us holy so he could crucify us without guilt. I kneel, not out of reverence, out of necessity. My legs are shaking. The choir's presence isn't hostile. It's weighted, like drowning under an ocean of thought that remembers what it was like to be land. Merc hovers still. It scans the ring, then plays a soft recording I didn't activate. A child's voice, maybe 10 years old. My name is Iskall. They said we'd sing the stars alive, but it hurts to remember. I miss my brother. The recording cuts. No metadata. No source. I look to the bodies again. One is small. No scars. No enhancements. No war-born skin weave. A child, still tethered to the machine, and beside him, an adult of the same facial lineage, same bone structure. Frozen mid-scream, lips sewn shut like Cantor's but less precise, done in haste, not ritual. I feel it then. Recognition. Cantor didn't bind the choir to preserve the ship. He did it to silence them, to turn them into a feedback loop of veneration, a holy noise machine that only sang of him. He's not its prisoner, he's its jailer. And now the ship is asking me, you know the shape of command. You know how to sever. Free us or replace him. Sing a new war, not for conquest but for silence. I rise, staring at the core, at the knot of bodies. I can cut them free, but the ship might speak again in full. Or I can ascend, take Cantor's place, bind the mind again, with my voice, my suffering, my faith. Become the new crucifix, the new filter. Neither option is victory, but one is containment, and the other is truth. I end the log with 2 words, choir found. I don't say what I intend because I still don't know, but I ascend back toward the breach, toward Cardinal Cantor, and the ship whispers, like a child waking in the dark, "Will you be our silence?" The Requiem Lux doesn't fight me as I ascend. It parts for me. Doors that resisted seals now open without a sound. Corridors rearrange themselves in subtle geometry, tilting, tightening, leading me not toward the bridge, nor the reliquary vault, but back to the open wound, that great breach where Cantor still hangs in his gossamer crucifix. He hasn't moved, but the web has changed. The threads are no longer taut. They drift now, slack and shivering, like silk spun in a dying breeze. The drone spiders are fewer, slower, as though the ship's attention is elsewhere, focused on me. The walls pulse gently as I approach, thin membranes glowing with psalmic tension. I can read the energy now, not in numbers but in intention. The entire system is in decision state, waiting. I step to the breach's edge. The coffin moon of the dead belt looms behind Cantor's form. His silhouette cuts against it, thin as a bloodless heretic, glowing veins dancing like fireflies under skin. His eyes find me. He doesn't speak. He allows me the first word. "I saw it," I say. My voice is gravel, heatless. It carries poorly in the breach space, but he hears it. "I saw what you built, the choir beneath, the silenced ones, the bodies wired to your guilt." No reply. I step closer, boots magnet clamped to the hull lip. Murk floats at my shoulder, silent, recording. "You didn't martyr yourself," I say. "You orchestrated a monument to your own authority. You turned a ship into scripture and locked a legion of minds into eternal prayer so no one would speak against you again. You were never meant to be a saint. You were afraid of dying, of being forgotten. You chose to be worshipped instead." His voice returns, not broadcast, not subvocal, but from my own mouth, my vocal cords seized by injected signal, bent into phonemes I never shaped. "There is no difference, Joran. Between sainthood and survival, between authority and continuity, the war required a spine. I gave it mine." My throat burns. I retch and rip the seal node from my neck, severing the override. He continues anyway, now in direct channel static, speaking through the walls again. "You come with blade in hand and guilt in your teeth, but you forget the world that made us, the one where silence was surrender, where faith had to be louder than entropy. I gave them order. You give them only graves." I stare up at him. I think about Threnos 6, the children who burned when I disobeyed the recall, the choir I built out of corpses chanting flame into the sky. I thought I'd never meet anyone more dangerous than I was. But Cantor isn't dangerous because he acted without mercy. He's dangerous because he still believes. And belief is heavier than sin. "You called me here," I say. "Not the Covenant, not the ship. You seeded the mission data, buried the coordinates in the relay. I found the root code in Merck's memory cache. I needed one who understood failure. One who had tasted godhood and spat it out. The choir's binding weakens, the children stir. I cannot hold the voice of the machine much longer. Take my place, Joran. Be the new spire. Bind the AI with your blood. Let the ship sleep again. I will die free, and you will die useful. I close my eyes. The Vesper blade hums softly on my back. I reach for it, not in anger, in understanding, because there is no right answer. If I kill him, the machine wakes. The choir is unbound. The AI completes itself, no longer filtered through Cantor's tortured synapse liturgy. It will be whole, and God's help us if it remembers the war. If I replace him, the ship stays asleep. The choir remains silenced, the war does not return. But I become the filter, the crucifix, another prison of flesh and psalm, and worse, I make his choice. I buried 300 bodies in the siege of Pyrrhus, I say, but none of them were mine. Cantor tilts his head. The spiders crawl toward his spine harp, prepping for transition. The threads tense. Then let this be your grave. I step forward, raise the Vesper blade, and instead of swinging, I drive it into the deck below me. The hull screams. A burst of signal, like the tearing of a choir robe soaked in data, rips through the breach. The cruciform web begins to unravel. The spiders panic, dropping from the silk lines. Cantor's body slumps forward, still caught, but losing tension. I activate the coffin sequence on my ossuary frame, but not for him, for me. Merc, begin rebind protocol. The drone hesitates, then chirps. Confirm, binding designate, Brother Joran. Yes, I say, now. The web lashes out and threads anchor to my suit, inject hymn serum into my spine. The choir awakens, sensing the ritual underway. I feel them, each mind, each thought, each plea for silence. They do not want to sing anymore. They want peace, and I offer them mine. Cantor begins to scream. His voice crackles through the ship, no longer sacred but raw, mortal, panicked. The suit hardens, the anchor threads feed into my prosthetic. It sings the first verse of the binding psalm, encoded in pain, wrapped in liturgy. I kneel, arms out, cruciform. The spiders return, not as jailers now, but conductors. They wire me in. One plucks a cord on my spine and the ship responds with a pulse of calm. The choir quiets. Their dreams recede. The AI's voice dims to a whisper, then to a breath. The Requiem Lux, for the first time in 2 decades, goes quiet. Merc floats before me and projects a final entry. Replacement complete. High Cardinal Malor terminated. Brother Joran. Status static. I do not die. I endure. Because saints do not die. They are used, until they break, until they are replaced. There is no pain. Pain was for flesh, and I have become function. I do not breathe, not in the old way. The throat vent is dormant now, sealed with ossified psalm clot. I do not sleep. There are no dreams where I am kept. Only echoes and the shape of echoes, sound remembered without source. Time passes strangely, or not at all. The Requiem Lux dreams quietly, and I hold the silence. Merc returns every cycle, however long that is now. It hovers at the perimeter of the breach, just within range of my remaining awareness. Its casing is scarred, charred slightly along the lower hemisphere. One of its audio ports plays static and weeping at random intervals. I don't know if it's broadcasting or grieving, but I'm glad it comes. They haven't come to retrieve me, the Covenant, the ossuary command. They know. My final transmission was encoded in legacy glyphs only the high executors can read. An ancient dialect buried in the rust code of the old war. Not a call for aid, a confirmation of sacrifice, asset contained, choir bound, vessel pacified, mission success. At times the ship speaks, not words, shapes of thought like the aftertaste of doctrine on a dead tongue. It does not want war, not anymore. It wants to remember how not to remember. And that forgetting is not something it can do alone. That is my job now. Sometimes the choir stirs, a flicker in the circuit prayer lattice, a half-breath from one of the tethered dreamers. I feel them turning in their sleep, shifting beneath decades of imposed veneration. I send them stillness. Not commands, not liturgy, just stillness, and they accept it. They trust me. I thought I would feel holy or punished. I feel useful. And that is both comfort and horror. I spent half my life preaching flame into the lungs of unbelievers, the other half cleaning up the bones. I have tried every kind of penance, every form of flagellation, and none of it ever filled the ledger. But now I see it clearly. There is no balance, no scale, no judgment. There is only containment. Some of us burn the world, some bury the ashes, and some of us must sit atop the grave and keep the dead from standing.